Hello. Oh, there's my dress form. How's it going? Happy Thursday. I was about to say last Thursday in April, but it's not the last Thursday in April. I think I was thinking that because it's my last quick fit for April, because next week we're live streaming my new pattern, which just came out a couple days ago, the Happy Trails travel bag. Hello, Rachel. Hi, Dawn. Hi, Margaret. Hello, hello. Welcome. How's it going? Nice to see you all. Hi, Aisha. The weather has been amazing. Spring and fall here are immaculate. Just immaculate. Love it. I love it. It'll be hot during the summer, but I actually don't mind the heat, and it doesn't really last that long, like a month maybe. And it's really warm on either side of it, and I don't really care. Hi, Tanya. How's it going? Welcome. All right, so we're fitting today a knit wrap dress, and I'm using the Appleton by Cashmerette as my example today. Actually, let me show you close up. Oops, it's way over here. So the Appleton, I actually thought this had a waist seam, and it does not have a waist seam. Hello, Anne. It has a little belt, and there is a hole in the side seam that the belt pokes through, so you can wrap the belt around you. There's a neckband, front and back, along the wrap portion. What else did I not know it had the other day? There were two things I was kind of surprised about. Well, the wrap, this wrap right here, like along the front, it integrates with the belt, so that's pretty nifty as well. So it's a very simple dress in a lot of ways, because there's only a front, a back, a sleeve, and then really the most pieces you have are a back neck band, a front neck band, and a belt. And those all integrate with each other. So, okay, so I have done my customary first fitting here. This is like a cotton interlock, and I know it's probably a little hard to see because it's lighter fabric, but let's just give it a little whirl here so you can kind of see what's going on, and then let me show you how the dress works. So you see how there is it's a full wrap, and then this goes through a little hole. Boop, boop. Hi, Rose, how's it going? So one thing note about where this wrap is that it goes under the bust. I think, personally, I love wraps. In fact, I'm fitting this thing because I think I have 4 or 5 wrap dress patterns that I have purchased and have not made, and I just haven't gotten around to them. I think the only wraps I've ever made are the Deer and Doe Scirocco jumpsuit, and I made that into a dress as well, and I love that thing. I wear the heck out of it. I should make another one. I just left the shorts off and put a skirt on. I'm oversimplifying that because there's a little more to it, but I love that little dress. I've also made the Alcott by Cashmerette, which is a little different because it's a wrap bodice with a midriff and then a straight skirt, and I love that dress too. I actually made that one for Hearts. I made both those dresses for Hearts, or the jumpsuit and the Alcott, both for Hearts. And I ended up with the Hearts sample a while later. It was a couple sizes too large when I made it for them, and now it fits me perfectly, so that was kind of serendipitous. And what I wanted to say about wraps is that I have helped quite a few people fit wraps, and the one thing that I think that is really frustrating and nothing you can do about, and I think it's really important to know this going in, is you cannot bring this closer together. You can try and get that closer together, but unless you're going to fit a wrap that goes over the boob, it is going to be pro cleavage. Okay, because I've helped a lot of people and they're like, yeah, but if I just raise this neck up, you can't. I'm going to show you, because I make mine as close together as possible because I am not big on showing off my cleavage. So this one here, this dress, this one here fitting my dress form, the shoulder seam is right here. So I feel like somewhere along the line, Cashmerette changed their shoulder breadth across their patterns, because for a really long time, this is how they all fit me. The shoulder seams were really far in, and can you see that? Here's the shoulder seam. It's pretty far in. I mean, you can see it on this one, this side here, right? Because this has seam allowance. So, and here's this is ostensibly the edge of this cover right here is the shoulder, and then this is the arm coming out, right? So that's pretty narrow when you have a set-in sleeve. For a sleeveless, it'd work great, actually. And like I said, I think this is fine right here, but I want to bring it in as close as possible so I have less cleavage showing. That's just my preference. That's something that's like a design change, right? Different than a fit change, it's a design change. So, hi Justine. Having a small bust, I find it hard to fit over the bust. Oh, thanks, Anne. Hi, Ellen. Welcome home, Ellen. I think if you it doesn't matter what size bust you have, it's hard to fit the wrap either way, but you can't fit this over your bust because it's not designed to do that. It would have to go like this, you know? It would have to actually cut that way. So you could try and fit that, you know, adding a lot here and going over to the side. That's entirely possible. And you'd have to do it, you know, it'd be symmetrical, left and right. Hi, Michelle. So I fit all kinds of busts with these, and they're always tricky. So that's my first thing, right? The shoulder is too far in. And one of the things I will check usually is if my shoulder is in the right place, is this sleeve still going to work for me? And I'll sort of pull it out to the edge here, force it, and let the sleeve hang. And the sleeve looks pretty good. It's a little wrinkly, sorry about that. But yeah, you know, it's actually looking pretty good. It might be a little bit, no, I don't think so. I don't think it's going to be a little tight. But I do see that it shows off a little armhole gape when I get it out there, right? So we have this little armhole gape. And when the shoulder is in the neutral position here, I find this to be a little bit gapey. Now, in full disclosure, I started to fit this on me, not this particular muslin, a different size. And I just felt a little self-conscious fitting myself for this one because it is very cleavagey. And I know because I fit that on me what this is going to tend to do, because a dress form only gets you so far. The body acts a lot differently, even though this is a copy, well, of my body at a different size. It's still going to give you a really good idea, but it's not going to give you 100% what's going to happen. Just because, like, they're not boobs, right? It's firm, right? And I can tell, like, this little bit of looseness here. I know there's a little bit of armhole gape here. This is absolutely true, this shoulder being too far in. And I didn't really like how low cut it was. So those are the few things I'm thinking about doing. And I think that these would be really hard to detect for when you're fitting knits on a dress form. Also can be a little hard to detect. Oh, and one of the things I wanted to show you, so let's spend a little time looking at this bodice over here that doesn't have a sleeve. I'm trying to relax the bodice a little bit so it's not being pulled anywhere. So we can kind of see, right, there's that little bit of armhole gape. If we were to pull this shoulder over to the edge, we can really see it, right? And obviously this point on this fabric, if I add to the shoulder, it's still going to be right there. We would add to this outer edge, right? We could also see this right here, this little bit of armhole gape. Now, a lot of times, if this was in woven and it was sleeveless, 100% I would solve for this. In the knit, it's going to melt into the sleeve. You see that back there? It just kind of melts in. I'm not going to worry about it. We could if we wanted, but honestly, when you're dealing with things like back armhole gape, you're starting to approach darts in shoulders and necks, and I don't really feel like that's necessary on a knit dress. especially with the knit dress with this seam right here. When I sewed this with a straight stitch, a long basting stitch. So that's another thing, like that's gonna affect the fit. If I were to use my serger and maybe gently pull this while I attach it, it's gonna cinch it in, which is going to help shape that upper back. So those are the things I'm thinking about. So, hi Michelle. Yeah, exactly. Hi Terry. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever, Terry. So those are the few things I would like to do to this bodice. I feel like this is constant for me, right? I'm always shaping this upper shoulder area, dealing with gaping, bringing out shoulders usually. I'm not particularly broad shouldered, but I'm also not narrow shouldered, and I'm not sloping. I'm definitely squarer. So, all right, so let's slide her over. And like usual, I'm gonna walk you through all the changes. And I've already cut and sewn the sample. So we'll get to see the after, which is always fun. I love seeing the before and after. Okay, here we have our pattern. So again, let me walk you through the pattern pieces. I feel like changing that camera just a little bit, but I'm gonna leave it off center there. We have this front, and you can see it's wrap, right? I don't know if this is the center front, but it most likely is this grain line. I wouldn't assume that, but that is always really helpful to know in a wrap, because like say you want to know at what point is this crossing the center of the body, right? Where is this going to intersect? And that's also really important. Say if you traced another one of these off, flipped it over, and you wanted to figure out like where is this intersection like on the bust. Hopefully the center line is denoting that. Hi, Julie. All right, and so here's the back. It's on the fold. This little indication is for where that belt hole is. There is a neckband for the back. And then the front neckband is just a straight piece you fold like this. You do gently stretch it as you sew it on. And then the belt attaches to the end here of the neckband. So that's how this all goes together. We're not going to need these two pieces at all. We just need these 4. That's it. But that's plenty. Make some room here. All right. I think the first thing we're going to do is... Oh, my cat's coming in. Oh, please don't let him jump up here. He is most likely going to jump up here. He has no boundaries. I'm trying to think what I did first on the other one, because I did learn an order of operations while I was doing this. So let's first actually locate our apex. You didn't miss anything, don't worry. Noodle, yeah, let's not say his name. All right, so we need to find where this apex is, because we want to pivot this neckline gape and this armhole gape into a new dart. All right, so I know where the apex is on this dress form because I've got a pin underneath so I can feel it, and it's right here. This is definitely like where you want it to be, and I'm always looking at kind of where's the fullness, the peak. My apex could be a few different places. So on this one, it's right here. I think that looks pretty good, like where this pin goes in. I think that looks pretty good. And we're not, we don't actually need a precise location for this apex. We need something in the ballpark because we just want to make sure we point our dart the right direction. It's okay if you're in the vicinity because it's not like anyone's going to know. You're not going to get tested on it, all right? So we're also going to measure. This is the hardest part, is figuring out exactly how to transfer this to your paper pattern. So I will usually do a few things. I'm going to measure straight down from the shoulder seam, just straight down. And hopefully like none of this is stretching or anything like that. We're just going to find it. And I get, 10 1/4. So I'm going to write these down, then I'll show you. And then I'm also going to kind of figure out where this is at, like if I were to make my ruler parallel to the floor, level, and then measure along the side seam to that point. Let's say it's right here. Is that where I think that is? Something like right here, I think. And do I want my dart right there? Do I want it, like this? Do I want it straight? You have a few options of what you prefer. I like to look at the dart as kind of being in the shadow of the boob and kind of hiding in here, right? So I think a tiny bit of an angle is kind of nice. So let's say we want it right here, but we want to know where this apex is in relation to the side seam. So that's what this mark is for. It's kind of in line with that. And we're going to measure across 7.5. And then I'm also going to measure down where I've decided to put my dart. All right. Okay, so let me show you how I'm going to triangulate that. And then, I also want to mark this little bit of gaping. I don't know where he is. I'm like, where is he? He has a favorite little bed in here. Even if I don't have this gaping, I'm going to show you how to solve for it because it's really common with wraps for people. So even if I didn't have this, I was going to show you how to do this because it's really common. And you might find this in wovens and in knits. And if you don't have a dart, it's super easy to add one. And even on knits, you can have a dart. So that's what we're going to do. So let's also mark our other things here. So we're going to take out this little bit here at the armhole and this little bit here at the neckline. And I'm going to measure down where that is on the neckline, how much this is, and same with this armhole gape. We're going to measure along here. This one's a bit of an angle, so it's a little bit harder to detect. The angles are always the worst because you it feels like you're not getting that like perpendicular, intersection, which is nice. Nope, this is the beginning, Nancy. I'm just writing down all the changes I plan to do. How much am I going to go out on my shoulder seams? I'm going to go out 1 inch. So I measure to the end of my shoulder here. Here's my notes. I have a little note thing. I'm going to write that. And then I'm going to go in as far as I can here at the neckline here. And that's going to be about like 3/4, I think, of 1 inch. Because I can only go to here, right? Even though this is not here, this neckband's going to land here. So we don't want to go too far. Okay, we have all of our things. So let me show you what this looks like. Why is there a gape on? Because you see how can you see? Oh yeah, see right here? See that? Like, I don't want to disrupt it, but do you see right here, these little bits here? Now, you could solve some of this by stretching the neck, like maybe making the neckband shorter and stretching it onto the front. But I just want to show you how to remove this gape if you don't have that option, like say you are doing a woven wrap, all right? But that is a really good option when you're dealing with knits. And in fact, I think the Scirocco has you stretch it as well. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember if I added that or not, but it's a good way to give yourself some shaping. It's kind of in lieu of gathering it up, and it won't be noticeable because you do already stretch this on here. and you can't even tell I stretched it on there. Because this is shorter. It should look more like this, right? It should be more tight like that. So that's why. All right, so let me show you my little list here. All right, so let's find our apex. So I'm gonna draw in my seam allowance. Let's see, can you guys see okay? There's my intersection, right? And I figured out 3 inches below, that's where I want my dart. Did I not write down this one here? That's 1 3/4 where we're gonna take the apex over. And so we're going to draw this over 7 1/2. So it's somewhere along this axis here. This is the, it's a knit wrap dress, and I'm using the Appleton by Cashmerette as my example. This one here. Very simple wrap dress. All right, and now we're going to mark our shoulder. And we're gonna go straight down, and we're gonna hit this axis here. And that's my apex. So that's gonna be the pivot point for both these gapes that we're gonna solve. All right, so now let's draw those in. We're gonna measure along this armhole. This is that really that? Oh, okay. It's right here, about right here. And then the amount is 1/2 inch, so I'm going to mark the 1/2 inch there. So that's the gape I'm going to remove right there in the armhole. And then this pattern is just for knits. Sorry, I missed your question there. And then we're going to measure along the neckline here to find where that other gape is. And that's right here. And it is also about 1/2 inch. So we're getting rid of that. We're getting rid of that. We found our apex, and we're going to put our dart right here. And the dart length, I'm going to sort of figure out what I want. I don't really want the dart to end past a certain point, right? And so you can kind of figure out like where is that. So we'll stick to like maybe 6 inches, 6-inch dart. Okay. All right, so we're gonna remove the gape. Is that what I did first? Oh, do I wanna look at my pattern? Boy, I'm like forgetting which one I did first, because I realized I did one before the other. I honestly can't remember. It's not that unusual. You can have darts and knits. I think the thing to remember with putting a dart in knit or any kind of seam that kind of hovers out there in the middle is to know that's exactly where you want it and to sew it right the first time. Knit isn't very forgiving to be sewn more than once, and you might find that if you need to like readjust that dart, you've cut some of those threads and they may start fraying. Not fraying, but running. So look at my pattern. Well, and my pattern's in the garbage now. Like I literally just moved on from it. But I'm going to, so I want to make sure I do it right. Okay, yeah, so we're going to solve for the gape first. And the reason I did that was because when I did it the other way, I got too tight of an armhole and it changed the length of it too much. So, all right, so now we're going to draw a line for our mounts that we're going to pivot out. And let's draw in our seam allowance on here. And you just need a line to one of these spots. It can be this one or this one. Same here, like that. I'm going to turn this upside down. And we're also going to draw a line where we want our dart. There we go. So we're going to open up this spot where our dart's going to go, and we're going to stop there, so that's our hinge. And same here at the armhole. All right, and so now we're going to pick this up and we're going to overlap it that amount. Now this is going to be a little tricky because of this angle. So we're trying to get rid of about a 1/2 inch. So I'm kind of looking at that overlap. You're going to get a big jog. Whoops, you can't see. So here's my piece. I went through one to this apex here. You are free. What? Is that me? I'm frozen? Really? Am I frozen? I don't think so. Freezing. That might not be me. It looks okay on my end. Let me see. Stream health. It says it's good. It could just be you, Anne. You might want to refresh. All right. So here we go, right? We have our hinge. We're going to overlap, and I'm looking at about the amount that I wanted. It's going to be a little bit, you know, hard to figure out when you have this steep angle, when we're not going at a right angle to an intersection like the armhole. And that's okay. You're getting short freezes. Oh, that's not good. I'm not watching myself, so I'm missing it. All right, so we got rid of that one, and now we're going to do our other one. So we're going to cut here, another hinge, and we're going to overlap again that little bit we're going to do. And you can do more than just these little bits, okay? So now we have a jog here, and we have a jog here, and we have our dart here. Let's get a piece of paper for our dart. I'm gonna put that there. And we're also gonna smooth out our jogs, and then we're going to widen our shoulder. So now for the knit, I think the dart, like the inside, the intake of the dart, that the fold should go down in this case, and that's just because knit can be a little heavy, and I think asking it to stay pressed up is asking a lot of it. So we're gonna pull this up here, okay? Close the dart, and then we're gonna cut along the side seam here, and now we have our shape. That's done. And now for these jogs, I'm not gonna worry about this neckline jog quite yet, and that's because remember I'm gonna try and narrow the neckline and bring it in just a little bit. All right, so we're gonna put this here. We're gonna fix this jog. Looking for my grain line ruler. So this is my edge right here, and this is my edge right here. And I need to, do you want me to zoom in? Let's zoom. I'm trying to imitate like a kid's thing, but it didn't really come across that way. Okay. And there's that dark bug that I get. How's that? That's way better. You guys need to shout at me when things like that happen. All right, so here we have our jog right here. So we're going to blend this in. And I'm gonna err on the side of going out, and that's just because I can always trim away later. I'm gonna add a little bit more right here. See, I told you Nancy was the one about the kielo. Nancy, you missed it. Sarah was making that, and I was like, where's Nancy? We need her. She remembers everything about this. So I'm going to fill it in a little bit like that. And you know, I'm doing this because I kind of know that we're about to bring the shoulder out. It's already not kind of meeting my armhole, and we can always trim it away, you know, so that works. All right, so now we have our this inner green line here, that's our new one. So I'm gonna draw in our seam line, because this is the way I'm going to kick out the shoulder, is just cutting along the seam here and kicking it out. I'm gonna get a piece of scrap, get it ready. So I'm just gonna cut along this seam allowance right here and then up to where I stopped. And I just picked a point where right before the curve. I don't really need to get into the curve. You could do that, but then you'd have a point right there in your curve, and that's not really what we want. I don't have enough of a hinge here. So that's a little hinge right there. I'm gonna use scissors. There we go. Right, Nancy? Well, they changed it. Okay, so now I'm going to secure my garment shoulder down first. I always secure one, it just makes it easier. And we're bringing this out quite a bit. I've got my seam line drawn on here in red. It got a little messy on top of the tape over here, but this is it right here, okay? And we want to kick it out about 1 inch. So we're just going to draw this seam line here. Just keep going on the paper that's underneath. And now I'm going to draw it 1 inch out like that. And so now all I need to do is place this inner edge of this cut piece on that line right there, okay? All right, and so now what we're looking at is this curved edge of the armhole. That looks still pretty good. Right here, the only thing now I'm worried about is a point right here at the shoulder intersection. We'll look at that once we have the back done. All right, so now let's do the front. I mean the center front there. So I'm gonna bring in my neck as much as possible. I'm gonna cut or attach this paper here. This one I will just draw in and blend it because I don't really need to cut along the seam allowance like that. I could. This will be a little bit easier, a little more of a organic shape because we're going to nothing down here at the wrap point. All right, so here we have this. Here's our finished line here. We're gonna add 3/4 and add our seam allowance back. And let's draw in our shoulder seam all the way and add our seam allowance to that. So there's our shoulder now. You can kind of see, can you see that this is creating a point? See that right there? So we need to make sure we have a nice smooth transition. Likely what'll happen is we'll have to bring out this armhole a little bit more to get a nice smooth transition right here at the peak of the shoulder. And I'll show you what happens if we don't when we get to the back. All right, so now we're just going to blend this in. And so this is why I say it's really hard to add to, like, say, the most common question I get with wraps is someone saying, can I raise up this intersection, you know, like where these two fronts intersect, can I lift that, raise that up, like make it higher up so there's less cleavage showing? And you really can't very much because you're trying to blend this in on a long line here at an angle. And so if this right here is indeed the intersection, let's say that this grain line represents the center, which with Cashmerette it probably does because they're pretty good about maintaining the like the engineering lines of the pattern drafting process on their patterns. So it's not like I can just go, I'd like to raise this V up here. Well, if you started to do that, where do you go? Are you going here? You can't just like now suddenly come back down here. You only have so many options, especially when you have this mountain in the way. It's kind of like thinking about planning the roads. Do you go around the mountain, over the mountain, through the mountain? You know, and in this case, you have to go around the mountain, and you don't have very many options because it's not like you can kind of go, I'll just go really close to the mountain. No, you got to go below it or above it. Yep, I am, Ellen, exactly. I think they've changed since, like, I don't know when it happened, but they have been less narrow lately, but this one is narrow. On me it is, at least. All right, so here we have this front. So I'm just bringing it in as much as I can without it looking like I'm redesigning the road system, okay? So that gave me a little bit. That gave me like an inch. That's pretty good, honestly. All right, so let's trim this off, and now we're gonna do our back. We've done most of our changes already. All we have to do now is adjust the back shoulder to match the front and adjust our sleeve. Why do we have to adjust our sleeve? Anyone know? I might need some of these actually. We'll keep those two. Yeah, I can literally see it. Like if I look at the pattern like this, let me get the angle for you. Do you see how far this is in from that shoulder point? That's right, Barbara. Exactly. Okay. So here's our back. And we're going to draw that in just a second. So let's draw in our seam allowance. Because we removed the armhole gate, we have to update the sleeve because now I've shortened the front armhole quite a bit. So we got to shorten the sleeve. Yeah, exactly, Terry. Exactly. All right, so this time we're only kicking out the shoulder a little bit. Go to about right here. Oh man. Hate it when I do that. Lost it there. All right, so we're gonna tape to the shirt first, the bodice first. We're gonna draw in our shoulder line. Kick out the amount. And now we're going to tape this in place. The reason I like cutting along the seam lines is that I'm not changing that seam length. So say I hadn't gotten rid of the armhole gape in the front. If I did this change, I could just use the sleeve as is. I didn't change the length of the armhole, and that's why I like to use the seam line there. All right, so now we're gonna do this little area right here that we brought in on the front. And I brought it in 3/4 of an inch. So you see here's this intersection of the seam line here. Here's my shoulder, here's my neck seam. Incidentally, I noticed that this neck pattern piece had the wrong seam allowance on the neck edge. It was 5/8 when it should have been 3/8, so I just trimmed it down. So if anyone's wondering that have found this video, I did know if you have an old copy, I don't know if they've updated it, but I did notice that. All right, so we're gonna draw our shoulder line here. Oops, this is so we have, you know, kind of like, you know, when you plot points on a graph, now we can plot a point on where we want our neckline. So we want it 3/4 of an inch in. I'm measuring from that intersection there, and then we're gonna measure it, put in our seam allowance there. And now I'm going to draw in my shoulder seam. And now I'm going to blend this in down here like that. Now we're going to have to update this pattern piece here. I accidentally started doing it on my actual piece here. So we'll do that in a second as well. So now what we're gonna do is, I'm gonna trim this neck, I'm gonna trim the shoulder, and now we're gonna check that point at the shoulder seam. This is fine. The shoulder angle here, this is fine. We can trim that. It's just the armhole. So let's put this here and we can check the width. So the width is a little bit off. And I think what I'll do is defer to the front here. Granted, we may need to defer to the back to get the get it from not having a point. So let me get some removable tape here. And you see I stacked it up on the seam line there. So now let's look. We see here's our point. Let me show you really clearly so you know what which line you're looking at since it's a mess. We have that and we have that. They don't match, right? It's off by 1/4 of an inch right here at that seam line. I'm measuring from here to there. But can you see this point that we have? So if you were to lay a ruler on there, look at how different that is. We'd have to chop all that off to get a nice smooth transition, because if you didn't do that, you'd have this like point coming out at your shoulder and your sleeve doesn't want to sew to that. So we're going to kind of do a little push-pull thing. I'm going to pull this out a little straighter like this, right? And let's see if we can get that a little closer while truing up that amount. So now I get this gentle point here. We don't want that either. So let's true it a little further like that, something like that. So I'll kick one out, I'll bring one in and kind of push pull. And it isn't as hard as it seems. Usually there are instances where it is really hard, but you're probably not going to run into those. Whoa, I just felt like I was scooping ice cream there. So now I feel like I have this optical illusion where I see this line. It's like, oh, is that creating a point? But it's not. It's a nice, smooth transition right there at the shoulder, right? We don't have a point coming down like we did just a second ago. I actually feel like it could be, this could go in a tiny bit and it would look a little bit more organic. And the way I would have to do that, if I didn't want to lose any of this shoulder width, is I would have to bring this whole armhole out like this, right here. Like this, like right there. Do you see what I mean? Do you see how this looks a little bit like it's rotating past this? It's not quite, but it's on the cusp. And it gets tricky when you start rotating your gapes out of armholes, because armholes sometimes will start looking like a really severe J, like this. Have you guys ever seen your armhole look like that? That's okay if it fits you, but it just means that you're probably pretty busty, or there's something out of whack balance-wise with the pattern that's kind of harder to detect without deconstructing the whole thing. So here, one thing I wanted to say is that just because I know this could probably come in and look a little bit more in line with how an armhole usually looks, with the shoulder point coming in further than this curve, don't ever assume your pattern is incorrect by looking at it on the table. Please don't do this. I can't stress this enough. You have seen standardized patterns all of your life that you've been sewing, and you are not standard. Maybe one of you is. You are not fitting that standard pattern. Please don't assume your pattern needs to look like the standard pattern, because that doesn't fit you. So why would you want it to look like that? So do another sample and check it. The C. Sometimes it's more like a J. Yeah. Just don't assume. I think that the worst part with fitting is the number of samples that you have to do. But if you really want a good fit, you have to do the samples. I mean, that's just how it is. And I'm not going to compromise on that. So, okay, so this one is ready. The only two things we have to do now are fix our little pattern piece and fix our sleeve. And so the way I would do this right here is you could do exactly what I just did, right? You can bring this in and then you would bring this in as well because you want to maintain the width. But I'm going to show you how it's probably more accurate just to redraft this little piece and faster. So I'm going to show you that. So I'm going to fold a piece of paper here and we're going to line it up on the fold perfectly. That's awesome, Justine. I don't mind it either. I think because it's so fast. It's really like I get excited. I'm like a little too eager sometimes. Okay, so the trick with doing this is to draw on your seam allowance. And I think what I'm gonna do is just trace off this back. You can't even see what I'm doing and you're not complaining. Okay, here we go. I'm going to trace off this back here, trace off this neck. Now remember, this neck has 3/8 inch seam allowance on it. So now we're going to take that off. Not really take it off, but we're getting it to the seam line, all right? All right, and so if you have to, erase this. Oh, the birds are crazy at my house, like crazy, crazy. Yesterday I witnessed a squirrel who was totally like, oh my gosh, what have I done? How do I get myself out of this? Because he was way too close to this wren nest and the parents were so mad. They harassed him for the longest time. Then Loki went out there. He wanted to get in on it. I was like, oh, dude, that's their business. You better stay out of that because those birds, they do not forget. So it's kind of chaos at my house with birds. Okay, so now here we have our seam line. We still have seam allowance here at the shoulder. I'll draw that in so we can maintain it. All right, and so now what we're gonna do is we're gonna build the piece. We need, this right here is our seam line and our band goes above it, right? So it goes up above it. We don't have red squirrels, we have gray squirrels. We also just saw a chipmunk the other day, which is really rare. So remember, we're building this above, so we're gonna add seam allowance to this edge going the other direction. I almost did this the way I would have done this if I were working on this pattern, and I realized, oh my God, that'd be so confusing because I would have drawn a parallel line to this and ugh. So now we're gonna build up the piece and it finishes 1 inch wide. So we're gonna do a 1 inch parallel line to that seam line. Okay, so we have this right here. Well, actually, not this right here. This is our finished band, okay? Everything else is seam allowance, so now we're going to draw in our seam allowance along the inner edge. I'm kind of doing it quickly, and that's our pattern piece. So it would have been this guy here, right? But we wanted to bring it in 3/4. And we would have had to trim it out here and add it here. So there we go. And so if we were to stack this on the seam line, there we go, there's our band, all right? Okay. Now let's just do our sleeve change, which is a super fun little change. We brought in our armhole, hopefully a 1/2 inch, right? So let's measure our armhole. With the knit, there's no ease in the sleeve, so it makes it really easy. Okay, so this is how I would do this. We're going to draw in our seam line again. We need this juncture right here. Oh, I'm using my ruler for markers. Only one messy ruler allowed. Okay, so here is our bicep line, right? And then there's the grain line right there. So this would be the grain line, but that we don't really need that for this adjustment. But we're gonna cut like this, somewhere between this notch and the cap there. You know, you can do it roughly where you did the gape. That works too. And what we need is, we're gonna go from here across, and here's a hinge, and here's a hinge, all right? And we're gonna get rid of the amount that we took out in the armhole gape. The way to remember this change is you're going across, almost like you're reaching across, and that kind of helps me remember always to start and go to the opposite side. And then we need a hinge here. What I love about this is that this line is perpendicular to the cap. So if you need to remove 3/4 of an inch and you draw a parallel line to that, you're going to remove 3/4 of an inch as long as you measure on the seam line, which is right here. So if you're trying to measure, you're trying to get rid of that, right? And you overlap this, and you put that cut line right where that other line is. Make sure this is all nice and flat. You'll get rid of it. All right, and so now we just need to trip the sleeve, and then I'm going to show you my after muslin. So we have a little bit of a jog here. Usually when I'm helping someone, I always tell them defer to the wider part. So in this case, the lower section, the jog is going out. This is the wider. So do a little bit of an evaluation at that moment and go, am I more apt to need more across the cap of my sleeve? Usually, did I feel like this sleeve was looking a little baggy? You know, and then decide which one you want to defer to, the like smaller one or the larger one. And then we'll just blend it in like that. And then now you have your trued sleeve to go to that armhole. And let me show you the after. We can look at this before real quick one more time. Some of you came in a little bit later. Oops, this is what I want. All right, so let me put it kind of back to where, before we decided what we were going to change on it. You can see this fabric is curling. Lovely. All right, so I only have one sleeve on, so we can kind of see one sleeve. I always like seeing one naked armhole, all right? And you can kind of see this is pulling away right here. It's why I sort of was like, okay, I'm just gonna fill this armhole a little bit. I can never go wrong with that usually. And we can also see this armhole is really far away from the edge of the shoulder. And on my dress form, this is usually my arm, and then this cover right here, that's my shoulder. This is a very hard line to pinpoint between you and the dress form, even on yourself. Like if you asked me every single day, I'd probably point to a different spot on my shoulder. So don't stress about that too much. Just try and find something and adjust it if you don't like it, you know. So we know that this is too narrow here. And then I also felt like this was too low because I want as much coverage as possible. I did start to fit this on myself, so that's how I know this is pretty low. We can see that this right here, you can kind of see it's loose. It's a little bit gapy. So I pinched a little bit out right there. The armhole's a little bit gapy, and you can kind of see it, especially when I pull this shoulder where it would normally be when it's there, that we get that little bit of an armhole gape. So I knew that was there. I'm not worried about this one here because on knits, well, and right now this is being pulled, but there is a little bit there. On knits, I don't worry about this as much because the sleeve's going to take care of it. If this is sleeveless, maybe I would do something about it. Maybe the hem, the finish of the armhole, if it was sleeveless, would take care of it. Like say you're cover stitching it or binding it. You could solve a lot of things by just, you know, pulling that binding a little bit and solving for that. I'm bringing in the neck, like I said, to be able to raise this up as much as possible. And then this little bit of armhole gape I have pinned out over here. And you can kind of see, like, if we were to put this in the proper spot, the sleeve looks like it hangs pretty good. You can sort of see there is a little bit of that potential gaping, but the sleeve's sort of, it's kind of holding it together, right? All right, so let's see what it looks like. I'm gonna pull all these pins out now so I can store this and not poke myself. It's great to finally use some of this fabric from the fabric sale last year. I picked up these two knits just for muslins. Knits are so grabby though on the dress form. All right. Oh yeah, okay. This one, I was like, wait, I didn't cut my belt as long this time, unfortunately. The belt takes a bit of fabric. I didn't want to just use it all up. I should have just used the belt from the muslin. This looks cockeyed to me. Maybe not. Let's press the seam open. All right, everything's looking in pretty good position. On you, it's so much faster, right? But on the dress form, it's so grabby. I don't want to distort it. All right, so we'll just tie it back here, kind of loosely. So that raised it up quite a bit. Look, it's sort of hugging the boob. So maybe that was too much, but it's one of those things where once I try on the sample, I would see, like, do I like this or do I not like this? Maybe I would deal with this creeping up under there to get more coverage up here. I can see a little bit of gaping here. I don't think that's actually real because I didn't cut this on the right grain line, unfortunately. But it does look a lot better out here. Let's press the seam to the sleeve so it looks more like it would. It's close. I think it's a lot closer. I like the dart. I think it's a little too long. I think I put this one higher up than the one I just drafted with you. Pretty sure, because I did that one at 3, right? Yeah, this is 2 3/4. I think that could be a little bit shorter, right? Maybe like right here. I think that could be better. Yeah, it's not bad. What's this right here? Is that me just pushing on it? Oh, okay, yeah. This is why I have this little pad in here, because when you put a arm on the dress form, there's this big divot, like it kind of sinks down between the dress form and the arm. I wish I would have cut this on the right grain line. That would have made a big difference, I think. I think that is a lot closer. I like this right here a lot. This looks a little looser. Maybe this is going to be too far. Maybe this is a simple case of doing something like this. I can just take this shoulder down a little bit or lower the whole armhole a tiny bit. But I don't think it needs that. I think really we just have a little too much there. It doesn't look so much like that on this side though. So I would probably investigate that before I just lopped it off on my pattern. Granted, I do like a tight armhole, don't I? So sweet. So yeah, if you ever need to get rid of gaping here or here, you don't have a dart, especially on wraps, you will most likely get a little gaping right here. For some people, you can pivot that out. If you don't have a dart, you can create one, but if you do have one, you can use the existing dart. Just slice straight down the middle of that dart and let it open up just like I was doing when I created the dart. Same thing. So that's it. That's what I have for you guys today. I'm bummed I didn't cut that one thing on the right grain line though. Where is it? There it is. Maybe I should have cut it longer tie too. It looks a little more like it, right? All right, well, that's our last quick fit this month, but next week I'm live streaming my new pattern, the Happy Trails travel bag. This is a pattern that's been one of my favorites to sew for years and years. It was something really popular that we did for limited edition stuff at Chicken Boots. I've sewn over 100 of them. I'm not kidding, they're one of my favorite things to sew. I love them. I'm gonna be showing you in the first stream on Wednesday a ton of bag making tips. Let me show you my list. I'm gonna be showing you things like using continuous zipper, installing sliders, how to use that. But I also have 3 binding attachments that I'm gonna play around with and kind of show you. Say you, because this is the thing, you don't have to spend $80 on a binding attachment. I would never spend that much on an attachment. I'm sorry. I know Bernina people are spending a lot on attachments like this, but I'm testing binding attachments. I'm going to give you links to them so that you can use the same one. And I'm going to show you how to use them if you have the screw hole in your machine bed or if you don't, okay? What is that really interesting item behind your sample? Oh, the 11sies bag? This? That's the Sew Liberated 11sies bag. Backpack, I mean. It's cute, huh? It makes a nice background prop. So yeah, I have the attachments. Let me show you what they look. Oh, they're over there. Never mind. Let me see. They're on the opposite side of where I thought they were. Because not all machines have the screw that you would like mount this to the bed of your machine with. So I'm going to show you 2 options. We're gonna try and find something that'll work for you. If you have a binding attachment for the Happy Trails bag, this is a very fast sew. I know you're like, whatever, Saremy, everything's fast for you. No, I swear to you, if you don't believe me, go to my Let's Make May streams from last year and watch me sew it on camera. I sewed one and I hadn't sewn one for years and I still sewed it together in less than an hour. So, right, Gail, exactly. So, I'm trying to get you guys an option to buy an attachment for like $15. I don't want you to be afraid of binding. The binding on this bag, there is a lot of it, but only the perimeter edge is binding you see on both sides. The rest of it, you don't see the underside. So it's gonna be fine no matter what you sew. But it's a great bag, so I hope you'll try it out. And it's on sale right now through the end of the month. So anyway, that'll be next week. I'll do those live streams and show you my love of the Happy Trails bag. And if you have Instagram, just check out my account. I'm showing you videos on how I pack it. There will be one about fabrics today or tomorrow. I'll give you links for that too. If you just search for vinyl, you'll find lots of options for it, like Sailrite and stuff. You can use fabric. You don't have to use vinyl. You could use mesh. I'll do a vinyl-free bag soon. So yeah, it's not too hard to find. That's right, Aisha, you should. I can't wait to start seeing them. I hope people make them. It's such a fun bag. I'll have a few for sale too soon. I'm going to be making mine out of a waxed canvas on the live stream. But I've done the splash fabric, the laminated cotton, which is amazing. Cordura. I have a little Instagram reel about those 3 bags. The Cordura waxed canvas and whatever the one I just said. Oh, splash fabric. You could laminate vinyl if you want. I have some of that stuff, you know, where you iron on the vinyl onto whatever fabric you want to use. You could do that. I did that for my dining room chairs and it's lasted a long time. So yeah. What's my take on using for, I don't know if I know the context of that. They can do whatever they want. I don't know the context of that question. Of the pattern cutout, I'm trying to decide, ooh, cool, that works. My tips for the fabric is something you can wipe clean or throw in the laundry. Because, you know, toothpaste is gonna get on it. Makeup's gonna get on it. Whatever is in the bathroom is gonna get on it. It's a wet space, you know, for binding. Yeah, I think that works if you want. Fold over elastic's pretty bulky, so it just depends on if it's in the right spot. You could use it if you want. And it's also expensive. In some cases, like some of the fold over elastic is kind of expensive for binding because you can get something like 12 to 15 yards out of a fat quarter of fabric for binding. That's pretty cheap. That's like $3 for 15 yards. You need 5 for the Happy Trails bag. But let's say you want to use up all your scrap fold over elastic. That's not a bad idea. I have tons of like 10-inch pieces of fold over elastic. I also like, it's interesting they would do that on certain things because personally, I don't want to have to change my needle type when I'm sewing. I just want to put in a size 16 and go for it. And I would be a little more nervous about that with that, but I don't know. I've never done it. They know what they're doing, I'm sure. And I'll also have lots of ideas for the hook if you don't want to use a metal hook. I'm using retired pattern hooks. I'm trying to give you lots of options to just not have to buy a bunch of things that you only need like 1 or 2. Could you bind it with that? You could. I didn't. I just used cotton. I have my bags here. Would you like to see them? Let me show you. I don't know why I'm not promoting them. I'm terrible about this type of stuff though. You know me. I have these 2 here. Let me just bring my bin. Ugh. Let me show you what I got. All right. Let's move some stuff. I have a little bag of mesh here that I was going to try. I actually don't really like any of this mesh, but I save it from things. This was a stuffed animal holder that we never used. Personally, this just wouldn't work for me because the holes are just too big for the things I put. Like I use a lot of bobby pins. This right here is a retired screen door, like the ones that Velcro to your back door and the pets can go in and out. It's kind of like icky, but I've saved it just so it's not going into a landfill quite yet, and I may use it for certain things. So there's mesh. This right here is the iron-on vinyl. So you can get this vinyl that irons onto any fabric. So this is just like, you can see the difference on the edge here. This is the canvas and there's the vinyl. I did this a really long time ago. It's been folded up in my stash for years. And so there are some permanent wrinkles right now. But this stuff's kind of cool. There's that. Here's my binding attachments, 2 of them. I'm going to try using the Erica Siskrin cover stitch binding attachment as well, because I know some of you have that. But this is the one I got from Waywack. This one's from Amazon. I'm going to show you guys both those. All right, so this is what I'm going to use next week. This is waxed canvas. And this is from Al Francis Textiles on Etsy. I love them. They're creating a new website too. And I have a lot of their waxed canvas. This is so zoomed in. I don't have much space here. Let's zoom out a little bit. There we go. I'm glad I didn't get that dark thingy. Okay. I made my daughter a bag with the Sedona color recently. This is this really beautiful, like dark purple. And it coordinates with a waxed plaid. I really do love their fabrics. This is all, here's my vinyl that I use. It's just a 12 gauge matte vinyl. Oilcloth, you could try using oilcloth if you went through the oilcloth craze. I think that would work great. Splash fabric is a laminated cotton. If you have not used laminated cotton for years, like since it came out, do not think of splash fabric anything like it. It is so vastly different. It's so soft. It's so easy to sew. It's more environmentally responsible because of the way they decided to make it. They have a lot of really great prints. I'm not sponsored. And in my bin here are some of the things I'm thinking about doing. So this is wax canvas from Hearts Fabric. It's obviously already got a lot of texture to it. I'm not sure where they get theirs. I will say the one fabric I will caution against is the Robert Kaufman waxer canvas. Whatever the waxer canvas is, I have a lot of trouble sewing that. Straight up, I break needles sewing it. It's so tightly woven. I don't recommend it. Sorry, I hardly ever not recommend something, but I don't recommend that. It is ridiculous. This is more of an open weave. If you don't like the distressing and you want to take cute Instagram photos, just take your hairdryer or steam it with your iron and they go away, but they'll be back. They'll be very much back. All right, and so I'm thinking about any of these fabric. I think like this looks really great with this, but I don't have anything else that goes with that. So I just got this new Smokey the Bear fabric because I'm a big fan of Smokey the Bear. So I thought that'd be cute, but I'm like, I don't really need this. And then I pulled all these cool little like greens and stuff to go. I thought that would be kind of cool. I also have these funny little fake knitting fabrics. But I'm thinking next week I'm going to be sewing with one of these two in the blue. If anyone wants to buy it and you have a fabric choice, let me know. I'll make it whatever you want. But this looks really cool in person. And then let me show you my bags. Sorry. This is the Splash Fabric bag. It's Splash Fabric inside and out, except the binding is quilting cotton. I'm actually going to modify this, take this panel off and put something different on there. And here's the little removable pouch. It's got, when you sew this, you're going to be like, what? There's 2 layers of pockets right here. There's a split pocket here, but just one zipper that goes across and then you split it. And there's elasticized pockets inside and then a little zip pocket right here. And then this is the hanging hook. So you can hang it anywhere in the bathroom, wherever you're staying. I just used a waxed cotton strap, webbing strap I had made for another bag and I didn't end up using it. So I stole it for the handle for this. And then here's my waxed canvas one. Waxed canvas is heavier. I used fabric on the Velcro. I show how to do this in the how to sew video. And this one has quilting cotton on the inside. My Cordura one that I just showed on the Instagram reel a couple days ago, I threw that through the laundry recently. Came out great. I've never washed it. But I was like, if I'm going to show pictures of this. Oh, I put an optional pocket on the back of this one. It's just a really great bag. I love sewing it. It's all flat, no fitting. No fitting. All right, anyway. If you're interested, it's on my website. And the how to sew video is up on YouTube so you can see it. And next week, I'm going to show you how to sew one using a binding attachment. And I'll probably sew another one that is bare bones. So no decoration here, No background here. No background here because that's a piece on top of the backing fabric here. It's hard to kind of, I know you guys don't know how this goes together. But there's some optional pieces here just to kind of make it look cute, and we can leave those off. And maybe I'll do it without vinyl as well, so you can kind of see what that looks like. And, you know, I'm also going to give you some hook ideas, because I think you could make a strip of fabric, 2 pieces of fabric with Velcro on the ends. Because if you have an opening, then you can go around anything in the bathroom. That's why the open-ended hook is really great. Because if you have like a loop like this, you have to be able to get this onto something. So say you only have a towel bar to hang this bag from, you can't use this on the towel bar. So that's why I say you want to open end. Just saying. All right. Anyway, I'll let you guys go. Thanks for coming. Happy spring. Hope you guys have a great rest of your week as well. And I'll see you next week, and we'll be at the Paradise office, and I'll be sewing this bag. Well, the first day I'm going to do bag making tips in regards to it. We're going to play around with all the binding attachments and the things I got to attach to the machine without a screw. So, would I do a garment bag in the new cotton oilcloth? What's the cotton oilcloth? See ya, Sure Bear. See ya, Rose. What's the new cotton oilcloth? You mean like, oh, you mean like the laminated cotton? This? Would I do a garment bag? Oh yeah, this would be great as a garment bag, actually. I think you can get swatches from Splash if you want to feel it. They're in Washington, by the way. You've seen these people, Anne. They're at Sew Expo. You've touched this fabric. I guarantee you've been to these people's booth. I'm assuming, but Splash fabric, right? I would do a garment bag out of this, so you can even see there at the end here where the laminate stops. Oh, okay, good. Yeah, it's laminated cotton, exactly. This is oilcloth. Not the same stuff like Merchant and Mills does. That's different. That's much different. It's very soft. Yeah, it's very different. And my machine never hangs up on it. You know, like some machines don't really like sewing on vinyl. They'll stop. They won't go forward. Yeah, no problem, man. Don't be afraid of wax canvas either. It's ridiculously easy to sew. I love it. Just watch out for that waxer stuff. It is so tightly woven that I can still remember flinching when I sewed it. Yeah, or otter wax. I know Sarah she got a fabric and she's coating hers in otter wax. Remember when I did the Kelly Anorak and I coated it in otter wax? Also a possibility. You don't have to use something waterproof. I just think you'll be happier. And I think all these fabrics have a lot of body, no stiffener, nothing. Oh, but one of my little tips, because Aisha's going to make hers for crafting at a show. Not a show, like a class. Oh, no. Let me move all this out of the way. I have an idea. Say you are going to classes and you want to be able to use this bag. Let me pop out the pouch here, because it is 3-dimensional. Say you know, you're not going to hang this up at those folding tables that you're sitting at a class with, right? So you can make this sit like this. So it sits like that's the side view, right? But this is what I say you do. I say you take this whole assembly, all of this, and you just turn it upside down. So that way when you want to use it, all your zippers are right side up, right? So this pocket, the zipper would be here, and these right here. Or you just switch this whole assembly, boop, and the split pockets down here and the layered pockets are up here. That's all you have to do. Turn it over. And then the other thing I would do is put stiffener in this piece here, but I would cut the stiffener in half under the handle. And then that way it wants to do this, it wants to break like that. And then your bag would stand up. I think that would be the greatest to do. So I might sew one like that. And the reason I say put the cut there is if you don't put the cut there, it may want to go like this. It won't stand up. You need to put that like that crack, you know. You could also sew it across, like sew through the, I don't know. Anyway, I can troubleshoot things till the cows come home, honestly. You gotta stop me. Do you have to change the curves when you flip the pockets? You trim the curves of these pieces in the instructions. They're not pre-curved. So no, you don't have to change anything. You can literally just go like that. And leave off this. Leave off the hook, the tether, all that. I mean, this is also an option if you're traveling and you don't want to do the hook. You could just have it stand up. I think that's a fair option, as long as you have something in here, and usually, you know, you have this. I usually have a few things in these pockets, always. It'll stand up. So yeah, I might sew one like that. Maybe that'll be the one without all the vinyl and stuff. So anyway, I'm gonna go now. I've been yapping for way too long. So see you guys soon. Buy the pattern. It's on sale through the end of the month, and I'll see you next week on the streams. So bye guys. Whoops, wait, oh, where am I going? This one.